So I think it's the time for start. Good morning, dear colleagues in Europe, and good afternoon, dear friends in China. It is my honor to see you again. Although online, but still I can see everybody's lively faces. So I'm very happy. Greetings to everybody. Today we have a next lecture series, and we have a very important speaker, as well as we have a very important topic. Let me introduce our speaker first, Professor FENG Zhongping. He is the newly appointed Director General of the Institute of European Studies, Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. And also he is the President of the China-CEE Institute. Professor Feng is a well-known and very famous scholar on the European studies, either in China or in Europe, so internationally. And he has a wider connections with the European think tanks and as well as research institutions. And Professor Feng also had been elected as the chairman of the Chinese Association for European Studies. And so he is also the top scholar in China on the European studies. Today, we are very lucky to have him for the lecture because recently he is very busy dealing with different issues. And Professor Feng, welcome. Also on today's topic, I think it is also very important. The topic for today's lecture for Professor Feng is on the China-EU relations, opportunities and challenges. So nowadays we're in a very big changing world, internationally, domestically, so either in Europe or in China. And due to the obstacles of the pandemic, so we cannot have the offline conferences, so we cannot have the real exchanges with everybody. We can remain online, and it provides some difficulties for the exchanges and communications. And at the same time, I think either China and or Europe has its own track on the development, and it's a pity that for the almost 2 years we cannot see each other and feel the dynamics of the developments. But anyhow, we have the online platform, and today we can have a discussion on the very important topic, China-EU relations. So I try to keep my introduction very short, and would like to leave more time for Professor Feng's lecture. So Professor Feng, the floor is yours, please. Welcome.
Thank you so much, CHEN Xin, Professor Chen. It is my great honor, indeed, to talk about this important topic and say hello to all the friends, colleagues, both in Europe and in Beijing, China. I want to say thank you to the Institute for offering this opportunity, this platform for me to exchange views with our colleagues in both China and Europe, especially colleagues from Central Eastern European countries who are very much interested in this important topic. I choose this topic because I think, okay, everybody is talking about China-US relations, and I understand a lot of people in Europe say, okay, everything has been, affected heavily by the U.S.-China rivalry. In other words, other bilateral relations, other relations are have to be considered by the affected by the European China-U.S. relations. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I think actually China-Europe could have a lot of things. We can work together. We are not necessarily being affected by the third factor, outside influence. So let me start by show you some of my main points. And first, let me share my screen. Okay. Right. I think. Right. Okay. Good. These are a couple of points I would like to explore in next half hours. I will speak half an hour, and then I would be very glad to know what your comments, your questions. We can have another 60 minutes, 30 minutes for Q&A. The logic of my talk is, something like how important is Europe? This is the one question I would like to address. Is Europe still important? If you think Europe is important, it is still important. Is it still important? And the logic for the next is it Europe? Is it important for China? so something like, how important is Europe? Is Europe still important? And how is it important for Europe? How China perceives Europe? Perceives what Europe is doing, and perceives what Europe is experiencing, and also our bilateral relations. For example, you say I move to my next screen. Next. Okay, right. I need to, my colleague to help me to pay, to do this. Everybody knows G7. We know G20, G7. But I would like to remind our audience, G7, either G7 or G20 are not accurate at all. In Chinese, we translate G20 into 20 countries. This is wrong. It's 19 countries plus the European Union. So G20 in English is okay. It's a group of 20 players, 20 actors. That's fine. But if we translate it into 20 countries, this is what exactly in Chinese we call 20 countries. That's not true. It is 19 countries plus European Union. G7 is not accurate either. Everybody knows G7. From the G7 to G8. In 2014, Russia was left and come back again, G7. But G7 is not accurate either, because it is 8, actually. If you plus Russia, it is a G9. Why? Because when the G7 was having meeting, in this meeting room, it is always 7 countries plus European Union. It's not just the Council President, it's also with the Commission President also present in this G7 framework activities, meetings. So by showing you two things, I want to underline, the European Union and its member states, it is an important actor. It is an important global play. Member states, we have France, Germany, Italy, Poland, all these important countries. And the European Union is a common market. First of all, it has a euro, single currency, with 19 countries so far. So this is just what I want to show you. When we in China to think about the world, global power structures, we think about the big picture, and then United States, if you like, Russia, it's a military power, and we have some neighbor countries, they are very important. We have emerging powers like India, Brazil, so-called BRICS. And we always know, Europe is an important play. Okay, so this is how important is Europe. Next. Okay, how is Europe still important? This is the question, people being frequently asked in China. People ask me, is Europe, you say Europe is important, is it still important? I said, a good question, okay? I will tell them Europe has suffered a lot. Europe has experienced a number of challenges. Some are serious crises in the past years. This is true. We had a Euro crisis. This crisis was, started actually by the international global financial crisis, global financial crisis. Started in the United States in 2007, 2008. Okay, and it led to a serious financial sovereignty debt crisis in Europe, especially in the southern European countries. And now we call it a Euro crisis because the newly established, newly launched single currency was seriously being threatened. Euro crisis, and then you remember we saw a lot of terrorist attacks in Europe, Paris, London, Berlin, a lot of other cities, capitals, small towns in Europe. That was another problem. And then, in 2015, refugee crisis arrived. People are talking about the, German Chancellor, the post-Merkel era, what is Germany is going to be, what is Europe is going to be after Chancellor Merkel, the German Chancellor. We remember in 2015, it was Germany which made the decision, open the door to receive 1 million refugees to Europe, to Germany. So this is another crisis, but maybe the most important crisis, most serious crisis is actually the Brexit. People like me, we have been talking about the European integration process is something, it will not be reversed. We saw this in our papers, lectures, textbooks even. But the divorce of the UK, from the Union has caused a serious problem to the bloc. It is a most serious crisis as far as I'm concerned. I think it is the most serious crisis since the beginning of the European project, since the end of the Second World War, when France, Federal Germany, Italy, and others to talk about, how to unite Europe in order to make Europe, strong again. So this is a important serious crisis. Europe. These are the series of crisis. But my own judgment is, if you disagree, let me know. I think Brexit is probably an exceptional case. It's not going to be a trend, because I'm afraid most of the European countries, most members of the European Union still values the unification, still thinks the union is an important place, and the rest, the individual member states can benefit enormously from this. So in that case, I think Europe, if not has become stronger following the crisis, at least it has showed to us, to the world, its resilience. Next. Okay, I want to speak a little bit quick. And at present, the biggest challenge, obviously, is the COVID-19 pandemic. We know the economic growth has been suffered seriously last year. Europe is one of the area region. France, Italy are the countries which suffered the most. In 2020, the Eurozone's GDP decreased by 60.6%, and the European Union as a whole economy shrank by 6.2. If you look at the individual countries, some are more serious than the rest, but as a whole, Europe, is being affected most, and we are expecting, this year, there will be a recovery. But look at the news today and this week, last week, the pandemic is not over at all. As the president of France told the people, in France, COVID-19 is not over. It can come back. This will, if it becomes serious again, the fourth quarter of this year will definitely, affect the economic recovery. And if everything is fine, maybe next year, I hope, 2020, we were able to see a real economic recovery in Europe. Next. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me move to the China-EU relations. What do we in China perceive Europe? I know this is a question a lot of people have had in their mind. In Europe, people were interested in knowing what China thinks about Europe. Let me tell you, Europe has changed its definition, its perception on China. In recent years, I will come back to this later on, but China is continually think Europe is one of the most important economic partner. This is the core, position Europe has occupied in Chinese foreign policies, in Chinese external relations, and it is not just an economic partner. Let me tell you, China really thinks after the economic globalization, the world is no longer, one country or a group of countries can cope with the global challenges. We are living in a big boat because of the 4 decades economic globalization. We share each other all the opportunities, but also the crisis. When something happens, it affects everybody. The pandemic showed us this. Climate crisis showed us this. So we need to address these issues. We need to address these challenges through close cooperations, through working together. This is the meaning of global governance. And when we look at the partners in dealing with global challenges, we think about the United States, we think about Russia, we think Europe is probably more than anybody else in this world more reliable, because Europe shares with China about the multilateralism, because Europe agrees with China. Rules are important. We need to have traffic lights. Otherwise, we are not able to deal with these issues. So it's not just an economic partner, but also global governance partner. Next. Okay. It is important to let our European colleagues know European Union as a whole is China's #1 trading partner for more than 19 years, more than 15 years. And China has become the European Union's #1 trade in goods, #1 trading partner in goods. But so these 2 figures shows you how important for us, two actors, two economies, how closely we are dependent. But this is what we think about Europe. I'm afraid Europe's perception of China has changed, I should say, dramatically. Europe is not just China is no longer being regarded just as a partner, but also competitor in economic areas, in technological areas, and also China has been regarded by some countries, and certainly by the European Commission. If you read their documents on China, China was labeled as a systemic rival. These documents came out 2-3 years ago in 2019, March 2019. That was the last commission of the European Union. But if you follow this, all the documents, meetings, summits, minister meetings of the European Union, you saw the new commission came to power in late 2019, received all this perception, follows, accept this analysis, about China. So it is no longer just a next reformer commission's definition. It is a definition now being taken over by the current commission. And if you talk about to some member states, they say the same thing. I know not all your member states, not all the member states in European Union agree totally, but this is the mainstream view, I think. Let me know if you have different views afterwards. So China also, European Union consider China is no longer developing country. All this, perceptions, this statement is going to have some impact on our bilateral ties. Next. Okay, so I want to, highlight one very important achievement, very important documents, agreement signed between China and Beijing and Brussels recently. This document we call CAI, Comprehensive Agreement on Investment. Let me tell you, this is one of the most important documents concerning China-European relations. I should say probably this is the most important document in the past 4 decades. Since the opening up and the reform in China, this document is going to help a lot for European entrepreneurs, business people to do business, to invest, to start their business in Beijing, in China, and the same for Chinese business people going to Europe. And it's not just investment. Investment is the most important part, but it's not just the investment. It's it has a lot of things which only made China agreed with the European Union, not with United States, not with Japan, not with any other countries. So European Union is at the moment, if it has been approved, European Union countries is the only countries which enjoys this very important business conditions in China, within China. So that is what I think is how important, very important. Next. Okay, I need to speak a little bit quick because the time flies. Okay, although we have different challenges, but I still believe, we can become European China. We can, have some practical cooperations. I think, the number one challenge or number one task at the moment in Europe, if you ask European countries, European Brussels people, institution people, what is their most important task today? They will tell you economic growth, recovery. Okay, how to recovery? Okay, we saw the ambitious recovery fund. We see the very huge amount of money has been allocated in many member states, since the beginning of the pandemic. But remember, China is the biggest market in the world. Chinese investment has been going out, in a sustainable way, in a strong way. So why not, let's enhance this important cooperation. Next. Okay, I think I'm not going to go to in details, but I just let you know, all the surveys made by our European Union Chamber of Commerce in China telling us, if not all, but most of the European companies in China believes they are making profit. Actually, last year they made more than normal years, interestingly. So they want to stay. So next. Okay, two very important points I want to share with our European colleagues, Chinese colleagues. China and many European countries, I'm not sure all countries, but many European countries still want to say the agreement, investment agreement approved. And this has been affected, interrupted by political problems between the Parliament, European Parliament, and the China, European Union. Following European Union sanctioned China in March this year, and China retained the sanction. And the European Parliament made a decision. They want to frozen this CAI approval process. This is what we are the difficulties we are facing now. So my argument is, let's prepare something. Let's do something. Let's break this deadlock as quick as possible. Next. Okay, good, very good. I have already saw some questions, but let me first to conclude briefly. This is a very important something which my thinking. I want to our European colleagues, Chinese colleagues, to know. I think Europe is, again, correct me if you think I'm not wrong. I'm wrong. I think European Union, Europe as a whole, is undergoing two main transformations. Number one, I think everybody will agree with me, is economic transformation, which includes green transformation, a digital transformation. Because I saw all this speeches, I thought a lot of money has been announced, allocated. So I think this is I believe this is the real something happening in Europe. And also I believe, before the German election, I told my colleagues, I said, okay, the Green Party is going to be a winner of this election. Although the Grey is not has not become the number one party after the election in Germany, but everybody agree with me, what our coalition government will be, Grey will have one place. If you have three parties, okay, different arrangement, but Grey is always there. So this is I believe the Green Party. It's a identity. It's a philosophy. It's now being again appreciated in Europe. So green transformation, digital transformation are important two things happening in Europe, and the second transformation, which I'm not sure, you agree with me or not. I think Europe is thinking also diplomatic transformation. Or maybe you could say strategic transformation. I come to the point. I think some European people, especially some politicians, strategists, they think Europe is too weak. Having soft power is not enough. Being a normative power is no longer enough. So these people are pushing the European Union become a so-called geopolitical actor. Okay, which means European Union and the member states was to have some kind of autonomy, strategic autonomy, if you like, which means they don't want to rely on anybody, either Washington, D.C., Beijing. Okay, they want to make their own critical decisions. For example, European Union does not want to choose either side in the China-US rivalry. They don't want to say, okay, I will stand with United States, or I want to choose to stand with China. So this, I call it's a strategic transformation or identity transformation or diplomatic transformation. Okay, if you agree, I think China, Europe, we have difference, but we also enjoy a lot of common views, common interests. Let's work together. I think I want to stop here, and I will be very happy to hear your views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Feng. You had a very insightful thoughts on the China-EU relations. Especially you mentioned that Europe and the EU is very important for China, but at the same time, China had been regarded not as a partner, but as the competitor or the systematic rival. So it's a very interesting, it's asymmetric perception from the two sides. And also, you try to explore more the opportunities for the future cooperation. Thank you very much for your presentation. And now we start for the discussions. And already we had received some questions and comments in the chat rooms. I think you also had read it.
Yes.
So how can we do it? So I try to make some general question for you, and you answer them, or you choose the questions and answer by yourselves.
Dear colleague Chen Xin, I will follow your order. Maybe you could, try to find some important questions. I saw a lot of comments. They want to, they think, a lot of comments rather than questions. Okay, I saw one question. Okay, Chen Xin, I think I saw. Okay, one is about how do you evaluate Europeans' strategic autonomy,
Yes.
the concept of this autonomy, and what this concept, this idea will affect China-European relations. I think this is actually a very good question. Let me start it by answering this interesting, good question.
Yes, please. I try to ask for you too.
Okay, strategic autonomy. I think Europe is evaluating its strategic environment at the moment. You know, a lot of European countries have established allies with the United States. By the way, NATO, we know it's military allies, political allies. It has 30 countries, 30 members, and 21 members are from the European Union. You say a lot of European countries had enjoyed this close security partnership allies with the United States. I'm afraid, you know, at the moment, after the Donald Trump's era, 4 years, and including Joe Biden's almost 1 year in the office in the White House. I think, you know, a lot of people, maybe even not a lot of people, maybe many countries in Europe started to think about, okay, their own threat perception, their own strategic perceptions, you know, importance of the NATO, and the difference about with the United States global positions. I think if you read people's writings in Europe, you got the idea. People think, okay, United States is leaving Europe. Joe Biden said, okay, America is back. But a lot of people say, okay, after the Afghanistan, you know, issue, I think people think, okay, United States is back to home. That means America first is still important in the policy making in the United States, and people think United States is now heavily, you know, being involved in relations with the with China. Europe is no longer America's number one issue, country, region. So so this is you know, the background. I think that's why these countries are. You hear people say we should have a strategic autonomy. Europeans should be able to have its own capability to deal with issues by itself, or at least mainly by the Europeans with assistance from the United States. So this is something. What does it affect China-European relations? My quick answer is we may be able to say real trilateral relations. United States, China, Europe. Okay, we have been talking about the trilateral relations among Washington, D.C., Moscow, and Beijing. Okay, at least in China, people, when they talk about the trilateral relations, what people think in their mind is U.S., Russia, China. Okay, if United States, Europe are getting very close, economically, militarily, security, you know, I don't think there is a trilateral relations. It's two versus one. It's the US, Europe together with China. And if Europe was to have a autonomy, at least this is a objection. This is something Europeans was to pursue in the future. And Europe, China, United States are the three biggest economies in the world. Think about this, okay? I think it is a time for China, for Europe to think about, how to interact, not just bilaterally. Europe, US, China, US, China, Europe, Europe, China. We should maybe start to think about, how to, try to affect each other in this three trilateral way. That is my answer to this question. I saw Chen Xin. Can you say something else? Okay, I think I saw this is a question in English. Professor Feng, you have started to pursue the concept. Okay. This is something which I think I just answered. Okay,
Professor Feng, I have a question.
Please.
But not in the chat room. Director, they sent to me. So they ask which are the key areas for potential cooperation between China and the EU, and also which are the potential conflict areas for the two sides. And if in this area, how to eventually manage such kind of conflicts.
Okay, these are good questions, but this also, interesting. Let me say, it's difficult to predict conflicts, but potential cooperations, traditionally trade, investment, technology, human people to people, education, all this stuff are very important. These are fundamental, this has become the fundamental strong links which brings China Europe closer. Potentially, I'm thinking about the climate issue. There are several levels for this cooperation. First, we need to have a support each other we need to help each other to support the Paris agreement, because when Donald Trump was in power, United States left this agreement. When Biden came back, when Biden won the election, United States came back. But I think Europe, China should stick together to always support this Paris agreement. This is one level. Second is China, Europe should work together in this great technology, in this new technology, because this is the key for both China, European countries, and actually this is the whole world. If we want to have a real meaningful, great transformation, we need to have the key technology. China, Europe can work a lot in this area. The third level, I think, is China, United States, China, Europe should help work together in the third market, other regions, helping, to address the climate issue, to push for green transformation. So this is a potential cooperation. I believe this is going to be a very important pillar in our cooperations in the years coming years. Potential conflict, Professor CHEN Xin. I really worried about the Taiwan issue. I'm afraid, one China policy. I want to remind to our European colleagues, it is most important principle. It's called one China policy, but in Chinese, it is the most important principle in our relations with other countries. Taiwan is a part of China. I don't think there is any room for any different interpretations. I don't see serious challenges in Europe, but look at what is going on in the United States. I'm afraid this will probably affect, some part of Europe, views of some part of Europe in this most important issue. I hope this will not happen. That is my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Feng. So the next question, it's very interesting that one participant raised, first he has a comment and then has the question. The comment is that the EU's stance to China at the moment had been dominated by the policies of the member states and as well as the US policy. So it is the exact example like the CIA, which had been the comprehensive investment agreement, which had been agreed by EU and China, but it has a problem for the ratification. So here's the comments, and then he has the he noticed a very interesting thing that is which says that actually EU lack of the knowledge on the independent thinking on China. So the EU had announced a new research program, a big program which called Horizon. And in this program, there are several issues regarding with China. So his question is, how do you think the EU's this dilemma? At one side, it depends on the US knowledge. At the other side, try to develop its own knowledge on China.
Very good question. This is I would regard it as a fundamental point. Policies, strategies depend on the perceptions. Perceptions are, important, but how the perception comes from the, interactions, understandings, knowledges is the core, it's the foundation. I think, many countries has misperceptions of foreign countries. This is not just European countries. This is not just the United States. We have a lot of misperceptions of other countries. We call foreign countries. Actually, they are our neighbors. And Europe has misperceptions of China, misinformations about China either. Too. How to solve this issue? Come to China, if you are not able to come to China, okay, well, let's set up some kind of joint programs. Let's think about some joint seminars, working shops, research project, if you like, and which can benefit on both sides. You know, by working with China, you can have a better understanding. You know, and for us, the same. You know, we know how Europeans are thinking about our country. You know, how do you perceive Chinese policies? Let me give you one example. Chinese expressions are very different from British English, for example. If you are not understanding Chinese, if you can read Chinese, but if you are not familiar with the expressions, you don't know what the author is talking about. You know, because our expression, our approach, you know, I mean the vocabulary, you know, you know, even we started how to study, these are different. But this is the natural. You know, every country have their own culture, you know, own history. This has made, you know, each country have their own interesting features, either in language or in culture, etc. So this shows how important for us to boost, to enhance communications. Communications like this afternoon, this morning for you, I think at least can bring us closer. At least from my talk, you think, oh, okay, I got some ideas. And from your questions, I also can figure out what are the problems, what do we lack, you know, in the communications. Thank you for this good question. I saw this question, Chen Xin. China and Europe are major stakeholders in the development of Africa. Do you see it a potential area for you to? Okay. Do you want to hear honest answer, colleague? I have been involved in, you know, this kind of discussions in the past years. Chen Xin, can I just directly answer this question?
Yeah, please, please.
Okay, I know I needed your moderator. For example, China had serious negotiations, made serious documents, agreement with France on this issue. France has still has a historic and even today link with many African countries. So through this Belt Road Initiative framework, Chinese government and the French counterpart agreed we should do something in Africa. This is a great idea. This is called the third party cooperation in Chinese. Okay, we call 第三方市场. Yes, the third party cooperation within the One Belt, One Road initiative, within this Belt Road initiative framework. So the Belt Road initiative cooperation between China and Europe is not just about China, Poland, China, Hungary, China, and individual countries, member states in Europe. We could also think about China, Europe plus mechanism working models. So Africa, absolutely. You know, I agree. You know, where China, Europe are major stakeholders. China believes Africa is rising with a lot of potential potential, you know, economic opportunities. Africa is also a neighborhood. It's close door of the European countries. So a good prosperity, stable Africa is in everybody's interest. So I agree with you. We could do things together in Europe. I agree. This can become a potential, a very important potential area for China-European cooperation.
Thank you, Professor Feng. So next question is about the upcoming summit of democracies. Somebody calls it would be formulating the organized by the U.S. Biden presidency, the summit for democracy, and somebody calls it would emerging a new Cold War. So against this background, how you can place the China-EU relations?
Very good question, CHEN Xin. This is something which I really like to have interactions, you know, quick Q2A to our colleagues. Although we are not able to meet in person, but I can imagine, you know, when you read this important question, this is actually highlight the importance of Europe in today's world. Don't you believe? Don't you agree with me? You know,
yes, yeah.
During the Cold War period, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, 80s, difficult period in the world, you know, Cold War time, there were two blocks, ideologically very clear, divided. I don't think our world, after 30 years of post-Cold War cooperation, and we are quickly moving to, quickly going back to the 4 decades of the Cold War. Why? Because the world has changed as a result of post-Cold War 30 years globalization. Because China, Europe are closely intertwined, closely. Can you imagine we are each other's #1 trading partner? Can you imagine China, United States are each one of the important trade partners? This was not the case at all during the Soviet Union, United States conflict in the name of the Cold War. Third, probably this is the most important. I think, you know, values are important for our European colleagues, for our Chinese colleagues too, for China. Yes, we are not divided. We are not conflict. Have you know, extremely conflict views. Democracy, human rights are universally valued concept. China, all the Chinese government is doing to improve the human rights standards. If you don't have some prejudice, if you look China objectively, you agree with me. This was a poor country some years ago, not long time ago. When I was a student in the UK 30 years ago, 30 years is a very short period of time. When I was a student studying in the UK, doing my postgraduate studies, I left China in 1988. In that time, in that year, there was no one supermarket in Beijing, not just the, not to mention other cities. There's no one single supermarket. There's no one single highway. In Europe, in UK, they call motorway. Look at what has happened in China in the past 3-4 decades. So let's talk about the you know, real situation without some you know, political prejudice, not you know, have already got something wheels mindset, you know, Cold War mindset, if you like. China is not a Soviet Union. So I'm not particularly worried about the scenario of a Cold War. By the way, look at yesterday what security advisor of Joe Biden, Jack Sullivan, his remarks on China. This is the latest U.S. administration's most senior U.S. administration's remarks on China-U.S. relations. What did he say? Basically, he made 2 points. U.S. foreign policy, U.S.-China policy is not going to transform China. Number 2, we are making efforts in finding ways to coexist in this global society, system. In other words, United States wants to find a way to make coexistence between China and United States in our global system. So okay, don't make a quick judgment about the Cold War. That is probably my last comments for this. Very good question.
Yes, thank you, Professor Feng. Thank you for your reply. I would like to also make some comments on these questions. Actually, it's very interesting and very important question.
Please.
So the Cold War actually was between United States and Soviet Union, but the real battlefield, the front was in Europe. So the Europeans had the experience on the impact of the Cold War. So they can have their answers. The first comment. The second comment is that actually after the end of the Cold War, it was the United States initiated several wars worldwide in the name of the democracy. And what were the results of these wars? Everybody can observe. The latest is the Afghanistan, withdrawal from the Afghanistan. And the third comment is that in my understanding, the development for the Europe is actually a peace project they call the European integration. And the development of the Chinese way, we call the globalization. So we had the opportunity in a peaceful world and had the opportunity for the development. I think either from the European side or from the Chinese side, they have no willingness to have further kind of Cold War in court. So initiated by the US, again, in the name of the democracy. So that's my comments. So I think we are closely to the end of this lecture and the discussions. And at the end, I would use my privilege to invite Professor Bogdan Grachik, a professor from the Warsaw University. He is also the member of our International Academic Committee of the China-CEE Institute. He raised his hands a lot of times but had no chance to ask. So I would leave the last question for him. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chen, Mr. President. Thank you for the presentation. Actually, I had a lot of comments, but maybe briefly, because we are at the end, maybe I will write something for China-CEE Institute as a briefcase, but I would like to put into your attention just one point, a very strong point, which was visible during the presentation of Professor Feng. You know, all of us, even here in Europe, European Union, we have a problem of the definition. What is the European Union? Some people say, well, community of shared values or the same values. The others say an entity in statu nascendi, so not created yet, under creation. Definitely not classical international organization. Usually we used to say that we are normative power. Probably the most tricky definition, as I heard, is probably you know the term UFO, unidentified flying object. We used to say European Union is UPO, unidentified political object. So many definitions, but the one which stays is usually agreed even in China that European Union is a soft power. And in this respect, we have a problem. We have a tremendous problem, and you raised it, Professor Feng, during your presentation. Yes, this is a decisive strategic moment for Europe. Why that is so? For one cardinal reason. Like it or not, Donald Trump changed the word, shaped the word, because prior to that, during Obama administrations and the previous US administrations, we had the values which ruled, value-based global order even. But Obama didn't change it, Trump changed it tremendously. Instead of values, we have bilateral, not multilateral, bilateral deals. So instead of soft power, we have hard power. 大国关系, we have big countries relationship. And the European Union is not 大国. We are not big country. We are unidentified political object. And we need to define ourselves. Who are we? And this is, in this respect, two crucial moments here, that Germany is after elections. So we will have Europe after Chancellor Merkel. This is a new chapter. And even more, we need to observe next spring elections in France, because you have two possibilities, major ones. One, continuation of Macron administration, and he is claiming Europe needs to be strategically sovereign or strategically autonomous. So we want to be hard power, finally, some way. On the other hand, there's Marine Le Pen, Eric Zemmour, which is emerging as a strong entity. And if somebody like them will win, the question mark will be about the future of the European integration. Instead of ever closer union, we will have something different, opposite, ever looser union, and not at that moment, not only Brexit, but something else. Don't worry about Polexit, it's only media coverage. This is not serious. More serious is what we have here in Poland on the Belarus border. This is serious. Yes, this one is serious, but not Polexit as such. However, we need to clarify the situation inside of the European Union after German elections, after new chancellor is already crowned, after the new German administration is taking place, and finally the French situation after the elections. At that moment, we will need to define ourselves as a hard power, whatever it means. That is my comment. I will probably write a little bit more on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bogdan Kulaczyk. Thank you for your comments. And I leave the concluding remarks to Professor Feng. Could you please make a general comment and yeah,
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chen Xin, is a great colleague of mine. As you mentioned at the very beginning of this talk, I am just 6 months old in this institute. I moved to joined the Institute of European Studies Academy of Social Sciences. I'm really happy to make contacts with our European colleagues. Have more opportunity to speak to each other. I'm enjoyed, in this talk, and I particularly grateful to people who made the comments, raising questions through the whole talk. I realized some are old friends because they say, Professor Feng, it's nice to see you again. So I really appreciate this, your comments. Europe is changing. The whole world is changing. China is also moving on. So our job as students, as a research, as a professor, as a think tank people in both China and in Europe, in Poland, in Hungary, in other countries in Europe, we share one common responsibility to have a better understanding of the world. What has changed what is changing, what has remained the same. We need to figure out, make some evaluations of all this changing world, and then we can, probably be able to say, okay, I am confident, seeing, make some predictions, confident to say I can make a contribution in working together between our two global players to make some efforts in improving, for example, understandings at least between our two European countries and China. So once more, I want to say thank you to the Institute, China-CEE Institute, particularly to President CHEN Xin for kindly inviting me, also, chairing this this seminar. To say all my colleagues in Budapest for their help, to facilitate this this talk, and finally to all the people who have been patiently, carefully listened, and also made some comments during my during our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Feng. I would like to thank everybody's participation. Especially thanks for Professor Feng's very good presentation, and also very thankful for the very valuable questions and comments. And also, I would like to thank our team in Budapest to provide the technical support. So thank you, everybody, and see you at our next online lecture, and hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, colleagues, dear colleagues.